Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Johnny Burgin, Marie Martens, and Steve Dougherty. Sit back and enjoy.
I'm gonna move on, move on. Well, it's time for me to move on down the road. The sun stopped shining on my back door. The way I feel, I won't feel no more. I'm gonna move on, move on. It's time for me to move on down the road. They say it's forever, not for you and me. Our love ain't what it used to be. I'm gonna move on, move on. It's time for me to move on down the road. I think I'm done here. I'm gonna pack my bags. Gonna walk out. I won't look back. I'm gonna move on, move on. It's time for me to move on down the road. The winter's coming, babe. I can feel it through my bones. It's coming. I'm gonna move on, move on. It's time for me to move on down the road. It's time for me to move on down the road. It's time for me to move on down the road.
Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Talkin' Tunes. I am your host, Frank Walsh. Thanks for tuning in today. Now, as you can see, I have three tremendous guests here. One who you may know from a previous show, and two who you are going to meet today. They are each great musicians in their own right. They are going to be touring here around the East Coast for another week or two. We're going to talk about places where you can see them, and you are going to hear much more music than you just heard. So it's going to give me great pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Johnny Burgin,
Hey, Frank.
Marie Martens, Steve Dougherty. Thank you for coming on today, guys.
It's my pleasure.
You know, you've been running all over the place. I appreciate you taking the time to come on in here and, set up and play some music.
We're going to have some fun.
We're going to have some fun. So talking of fun, let's talk a little bit about some of the fun and maybe not some of the fun that we've been dealing with over the last couple of years since you've been on. So let's talk a little bit about first how you guys got together. How did you guys team up here and how did you collaborate?
Well, I lived in Chicago for a long time, and that's when I ran into Steve, and we started playing together. What? When was that?
8 years ago?
Yeah.
That
Been a
long,
little
huh?
while.
Yeah.
Not long enough though. Should've
Yeah.
been longer.
So it was it must have been about 2015 or so.
Wow.
We've been playing together most of my shows ever since.
Cool.
And Marie, I guess we met, when did we meet?
I know how we met. So, there's a backstory to that.
Okay.
Get to the
So,
backstory. We like
right.
backstories.
So, since I'm born and raised in Sweden, I was in Sweden in the 90s, and my roommate brought home a stack of CDs with new blues artists. One of those CDs was your first CD, and that was the only one that I really interested me in that whole new stack of
Was it that
CDs.
handsome face and that beautiful smile, you know?
No,
Probably
it's
had
just-
nothing to do with the
It's
music,
just had
right?
that energy and the great groove, and it's just I like to listen to it. It's really good. So then I moved to the United States, and Facebook came around, and Johnny was popping up on Facebook, so I was like hitting the friend button, and then out of the blue one day, he texted me and said, "Hey, what's up? You want to come and sit in on one of my gigs?" So I did, and he thought I was somebody else
Really?
that he already met,
Who'd you think she was?
I have no earthly idea.
Anyway, but that's how we met. So.
Well, you know what I remember, and this sort of leads into the last CD that I released. There's a Japanese bass player named Yoshimi Hirata, who she's from the Tokyo area, and she recently moved to Chicago. But anyway, she was in Chicago, and she was doing some shows with me, and we played this little place in West Allis, Wisconsin, which is just west of Milwaukee. And you
That's
came
the
to
one.
that.
Yeah. Well, you invited me to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you came as a guest or
Yeah.
as a musician?
I never met him in person.
Just as
yeah,
a guest?
No, as a musician. He said,
Okay, he brought you as a musician.
"Come on back,
okay.
sit in, play some bass with me."
Cool.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right?
And the rest is history, huh?
Yeah, well,
So they
we've
say.
been playing together off and on ever since, and now I'm on the East Coast.
Right. Yeah, you
I've
moved
pretty
out of
much
Chicago.
lived everywhere lately. Since I left Chicago in 2016, and
Right.
since there I have been everywhere.
You're not on
And-
the lam, are you?
No, it would.
Is there a reward for your arrest and conviction? Or?
I'm doing all right with that. But anyway,
One step ahead.
but I lived in Chicago 28 years.
Right.
And anyway.
In
I
Chicago for
was
28
completely
years,
lost.
so you...
Oh yeah, so they're my, they're both still in the Midwest, but really the Midwest.
Wisconsin, right? Wisconsin.
Yeah, we're practically neighbors.
Behind the cheddar curtain, as
Yeah.
they say.
But it's amazing. The blues players that have come out of Wisconsin is just incredible. Like
Really?
Billy Flynn, Jim Lieben, Joel Patterson, and Steve.
Right.
Marie lives in Wisconsin. Yeah, Wisconsin is good blues territory too. But it's great to be back up here. I mean, this is it's so cool that J.B. Hutto lived here. You have J.B. Hutto and Roomful of Blues. So that's like the spectrum there.
Right.
You had Luther Snakeboy Johnson lived in Boston.
You sure you didn't grow up here? Because you know more than I do.
Well, I mean, I'm just excited about these players.
Right.
And, they were all here, and they had a big influence on all these folks here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even there was a bass player yesterday. Yesterday we played with, well, it won't be yesterday by the time this comes out.
Right.
We recently played with Tom Ferraro
Sure.
in Cranston.
That's
and,
Roomful, right?
And yeah, and
He's
there
one
was
of the founders of Roomful.
well, he's been around with them for a long time.
Yeah.
So the bass player is like, wow, you guys are really cool. You kind of sound like J.B. Hutto, So I mean, so it takes people who actually live here to kind of real blues artists who live in a certain place to sort of lead the way.
Yeah, we have quite a few, tremendous bands from around this
Yeah.
area. Not only Massachusetts, but surrounding towns. Rhode Island has, produced a lot of people as well. So as far as the last couple of years, when you moved to Chicago, we're talking about the pandemic that we've had over the last couple of years, and I'm sure that took a toll on all of you for that point, because I know how busy you were. You were playing all over the place, and I'm sure that both of you were. Why don't you talk about that, how the pandemic has affected you over the last couple of years, and was that a benefit in some ways to you? Because I've talked with a lot of people who during that downtime improved their skills. They practiced a lot, they worked a lot, So talk a little about your pandemic experience. Why don't we start with you, Steve?
Well, I had plans, but I ended up going to Florida, so I had no access to drum set, exercise equipment, and as I told you, I had foot surgery.
You had foot
while I was
surgery,
there.
right?
So that was kind of like a medical vacation,
Yeah.
and that was the most of it right there.
Really?
And of course, when I got back to the Midwest, there were a few gigs. They just slowly started back up, and it's getting there.
Right.
But it's still, there's so many places that are never going to be there. They're closed.
Yep.
And people that aren't even touring anymore, they just
Right.
said, yeah.
Now, were you here during the pandemic, Marie? You were here
Yes.
during the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
And, how did that affect you? As a musician and just as a person?
Yeah, I mean, as a musician, everything just
Shut
closed
down.
down. And, yeah. So, but after a little while, things started opening up a little bit. So I've just been playing locally around. It was a little sad because I had just released my first CD and
Yeah.
started to like get some momentum, and it
Yeah.
just, it stopped.
No.
So,
Now,
yeah.
did that give you an opportunity to hone your skill at all? Like, would you, Johnny, when you weren't out there playing as much as you do, were you working on your skill? Were you practicing your brains out? Or were you, sitting home, eating cereal and watching television?
I will say that I started this YouTube thing,
Uh-huh.
and
I did see some of that,
I
yep.
started doing guitar lessons on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually started like right when the whole shutdown happened. I was actually with Steve. There was a different bass player.
Mm-hmm.
We were in Dallas. Steve flew back. Stephanie,
Yep.
who produced Snowboarder Blues,
Right?
she flew back, and Chris and I drove. We played one show in Bisbee, Arizona,
Wow.
where there was no COVID in the whole county.
Wow.
So we got to play, and then dropped him off in L.A. And in L.A., I did my first guitar lesson video. I just talked about Sun Seals for 2 minutes, and it got like all these hits and stuff. And I just said, man, I should keep doing this. And then I did this Fenton Robinson lesson, and I realized I'd been playing the song wrong for over 20 years.
Really?
Yeah, and that was kind of like a wake-up call that like, gee, it's like all of a sudden you realize, oh, there's dirt all over my house or something, And so I started really consistently doing these lessons, and I met a lot of cool people with it, and it led to all these teaching things. Like I was actually the guitar instructor at the Pinetop Perkins
Wow.
workshop experience
Nice.
last year, and it really was related to those guitar lessons that I was putting on YouTube, that I still put on YouTube.
Right.
And a lot of people enjoy them because I went into the nooks and crannies like Luther Snakeboy Johnson. It's definitely the only lesson on YouTube or anywhere on Luther Snakeboy Johnson, but he's really someone who's worth talking about. So
Cool.
the people who like it really like it. So that was like the main thing I did during the pandemic, and then also the podcast about international blues. That was fun, but I don't have time to do the podcast right now.
Cool, cool.
It's too insane.
Cool. Now, as far as you guys getting together when you came over and you started to work together, how easy or difficult was it to fit in and get that cohesiveness, to adjusting to each other's style? Because would you compare and contrast your two musical styles,
Oh,
and how easy was it to
wow.
combine the two?
what a question.
I stayed up all night thinking of that.
I bet.
No.
Well, I think one big difference is that I played with a lot of people back in Sweden, and
You
there
friends with
was-
ABBA?
Not really, but
People ask you that a lot?
I also don't have really blonde hair, so it's like. But anyway, so I got exposed to a lot of different kind of blues, and like I was playing a lot of blues from Texas. I was playing a lot of blues from Louisiana,
yeah.
and Chicago, in their kind of watered down version of Chicago blues, and from West Coast and all over the United
Right.
States. And for me, I think I got a really broad
Broad base.
base. Yeah, exactly, but not very deep.
Okay.
A lot of times.
Okay.
So it's been really good playing with Johnny, because I've been like, I have to dig into this style more deeply, and it's good. It's really
How
good.
easy or difficult is it to change styles? I mean, I'm not a musician, even though I play one in movies. but I'm not a musician. How easy is it to transition from one to the other? Like, you know, the average person like myself, you know, I understand music. I think I know music pretty well. So I listen to the music and I really couldn't tell the difference, you
Right.
know. How, from a musical standpoint, easy or difficult is it to make a transition from, let's say, Chicago blues, Texas blues, you know, other types of blues out there?
Right. So if you know it, it's not hard. I think it's as a bass player, your job first is to listen. You
Right.
know, to.
So I was going to say, you learn
and
it
I
by
mean, that's,
ear,
that's
or do you,
the,
learn, or do you read
my
music?
job as a bass player is to fit in and to
Right,
listen
right.
and to connect. So
Right.
it's not. If you know what to do, it's easy. It's
What
when you
about you,
don't really know what to do, it's not so easy.
What about you, Steve, from a drumming standpoint? I mean, I was at an event recently, and I was listening. It was a blues show, and I was listening to a drummer, and as I'm listening, I'm saying, this drummer is like different. He's different, you know, almost like out of the box, if you would. You know, he wasn't playing the traditional blues riffs and everything. So, I was talking with who was it? Another great musician, and we were sitting off to the side, and I said, tell me, you're a musician. I said, is this drummer playing a little out there? And he goes, yeah. He goes, this guy's kind of a rock musician. So he was combining rock drumming with blues drumming, and for my ear, it was like, wow, this guy is great. Talk a little bit about that, about, you know, transitioning from rock drummers and blues drummers, jazz drummers, and, you know, kind of like the guitar. How easy or difficult is it to change?
I can't change my stripes. You know, I grew up in the Midwest, and the fellows that I met early on, we kind of went right to Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, and they made sure that I was paying attention to that and schooled on that.
Right.
So it's hard for me to not, when I play blues, to be in that. But as a drummer, you got to listen to what, you know,
Right,
what's he singing, not just what he's playing, and definitely what she's playing on the bass.
right.
And circle the wagons around that,
Right.
and make the pocket, and then everybody gets relaxed, and we get down to the serious business of having fun.
Have you played rock at all? Have you done rock?
I've played various styles of music in my, you know, hack kind of a way, but my sweet spot is
Right.
most definitely.
Did you grow up listening to some of the traditional ones? We have, you know, like Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa.
Oh, yeah.
Did you grow
if
up
I could
on
come
those?
back as Philly Joe Jones
Yeah?
without the addiction.
Okay,
But yeah, I'd love to steal his stuff.
right.
I have funk. Tower of Power is a great influence.
I've seen them
but I
twice
could
in the
not
last
do
year
it
and a half.
justice, you know.
Unbelievable.
Oh yeah, but
Yeah.
there's still my bucket list is I would like to go to the south of France for the Django Reinhardt Festival.
I want to go there too.
Let's
that
go.
That's what I wanna
Yeah,
do.
me too.
Parlez-vous français?
Oh man, and most of those guys they don't have a drummer because they don't need him.
Well, first of all, you're going to go to southern France. You're not going to want to come home.
Yeah,
You know, I'm sure you've been there. You've been to Provence. You've been to southern France. It's you know, I'd live there in a heartbeat. So as far as, you know, your music, who did you come up listening to, and how would you compare and contrast the music that is over in Sweden? You know, the type of music they played there, and like the blues and stuff that you hear. How does that compare or contrast to the style of music that you had to get used to coming over here?
Oh wow. Well, I grew up like a lot of Swedes, just listening to whatever was playing on the
Any
radio.
particular, you know, like a lot of European bands? We listen to American
yeah, and
music.
a lot
or-
of Swedish bands, and even a lot of British music.
Okay.
A lot of like late 60s. I got stuck very early on in like everything from the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I was like, so I was kind of compared to my friends, I was listening to, I don't know, David Bowie and Deep Purple or whatnot,
Right,
and
right,
I ended
right.
up
British
listening
bands,
to Yardbirds and
Good taste.
early Fleetwood Mac and all of that. So I really enjoyed that a lot.
Now you play the bass. Any other instruments? You play guitar, play bass.
Yeah, and I play a little keyboard too.
Do you? Mm-hmm. Do you incorporate that into your shows when you play, or?
Not my shows, but on the CD that I have, I do a couple of tracks,
Cool,
organ tracks on there.
cool.
Yeah.
Now, this might be a good point for us to take a little break, and instead of chatting about your music, we can hear a little bit of it, okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
So folks, why don't you sit back for a couple of minutes and buckle up and listen to these guys play a little bit. We'll be right back.
in your sleep. Yeah, have you said walking on in your sleep? Tell the whole world that my lover can't be. Yeah, make it do like a cooter, like a tail on the sand. Yeah, make it do like a cooter, like your tail on the sand. Make it feel like you're drowning, like you're drowning on dry land.
All right, this tune is called Blues Falling. It's on my LP, my live LP, and it goes like this. Ready?
Well, when the blues stop falling, trouble begins to rise. Well, when the blues stop falling, trouble begins to rise. When your woman stops loving you, she's loving some other guy. It's like the old folks say, what they say sometimes. Like the old folks say, what they say sometimes. She don't wash it on your clothes, she loving some other guy. before we got home, we kind of shook it down twice, bloody must holler. Mama won't allow me, Mama won't allow me, Mama won't allow me. I said, oh, well, all night long. I said, all night long, all night long. I said, all night long, nobody must holler. Well, my mama, she came up to me, she said, you know, that man ain't no good. It's gonna treat you all wrong. Yeah.
Well, guys, once again,
Oh,
you
thanks.
don't feel to, didn't fail to disappoint on that one. And we've got some more coming for you in a little bit, folks. But back to the little chit chat here. Let me ask you, Johnny. I was thinking about this a little earlier today, and it's kind of a long-winded question. I'll give you a little lead into the question of what made me think about it. I had a good friend of mine who was a barber, and he's a regular barber, not a stylist. He was a barber. And I went to him probably 30, 35 years ago, and he would cut my hair, and it was $10, right? He would give me a terrible haircut because I was better looking than he was, and he didn't want me looking better than he was. So he always screwed up my sideburns and all that stuff. You're supposed to laugh at that. That was a joke. But anyway,
But you kept going because it was $10.
exactly. But it was $10. So there was one point there. I said to him, I said, Jesus, Norman. I said, you charge $10 for your haircut. I said, I can get down to the street to a salon, and I can go down the street to a beauty shop and get a haircut, and it's going to cost me $30, $40. So I asked him, I said, what's the difference between a $10 haircut and a $40 haircut? And he paused for a second and he said, this much. And I thought that was the best answer he could give, because when I asked him to elaborate on it, he said, they'll know to cut a little more over here, cut a little bit over here, a little bit more over here. And he says, and they will cut your hair that much different than I could, but they know how to do it, right? They know how to do it. And that's the difference between a $10 haircut and a $40 haircut. So let me throw it on you guys here. You're a great guitarist. You're an excellent guitarist, you're a great guitarist. But you talk about your Joe Bonamassas, you talk about your Eric Claptons, you talk about your historic great guitarists. What is that difference between Johnny Burgin being a great guitarist versus a Joe Bonamassa or some of these other guys who are considered the top of the pantheon? What's that difference? Like that little haircut. What's that difference between great and super great?
Well, with Joe Bonamassa and Eric Clapton and stuff, that is a lot of that's tapping into the whole rock market.
Okay.
And I'm
but
not
as a
even
guitar,
trying
but
to
as
do
a guitar,
that.
no, but as a guitarist, well, pick
Right.
yeah.
Between the greats and the super greats.
Yeah,
is what
I
you're
mean,
saying.
what-
You're
what-
right. It is one little thing.
It's
There's
what-
little
but
things.
what is that? What separates? Like you're a great drummer. I've heard you drum. You're a great drummer. I mean, I have a trained ear, but I'm not a musician. So when you're looking at someone, you probably look at a drummer somewhere and say, "Wow," like I wish I could do that. Or you probably look at some guitarist somewhere and say, "Wow, I wish I could do that." But as an untrained, not a musician, I'm curious as to what's that difference. What's that difference? Is it more notes? Is it more skill? What is it?
It's
Help
not
me with
notes or
that.
skill. It's all style.
Okay.
It's like a great actor can. If you're a great guitar player, or if it's about connecting, and it's about kind of being the star of the movie.
Okay.
I mean, all the movies are the same. All the plots are the same.
Right.
All the songs are the same, more or less.
Okay.
You know, it's not about someone wrote an amazing melody. You know, the melody, you know, it's the singer, not the song.
Okay.
So it's like, it's about keeping their interest with this sort of like indefinable style.
Okay. Would you like to chime in on that? Would you agree or want to
Yeah,
add
I would
something to
agree
that?
with that,
I think that's a
yeah.
great answer.
It is.
That was not a test question. That was a curiosity question.
That's a really interesting question.
Yeah. I stayed up again
Yeah.
another hour thinking of that one.
We need more wine for that question, you know?
But add to that. I mean, you know, add some more to that. Do you agree with that, or anything that you would like to add to that as a different, that little?
There's
But you also
also
a
a
great
bit
answer,
of
though. Great answer.
there's also a bit of luck involved in that. When you make that next step, you're in the right place at the right time. But at that point, you've got to have everything in order. You know, your skills. You
Very
have to have
true.
your own style, and you know the other things that come along with that. But it's nice to be in the right place at the right time.
So I was thinking that too. That had crossed my mind in the past. Is that, you know, you see so many great people, great musicians, great singers, great instrumentalists that they hit that plateau and they never make it
Right?
any further than that. And I think I agree with you on that. There's some luck, and it's who you know, who you know, and where you know, and all that.
And chemistry is really important.
Yeah.
I mean, like, look at the Jimi Hendrix experience. There's sort of this like yin yang. There's this light jazzy drumming, and then the really big guitar sound. Is like, it was a different balance, and there was a chemistry where one person brought something out of another person. I've played with certain people where, you know, it just clicked.
Okay.
Like when I played with Paul DeLay like years back.
Wow,
you know, it
Paul
just
DeLay band,
it just
great
clicked
band.
and popped right away.
Is he still around?
No, he passed.
Did he? Okay. I have a couple of his CDs. Yeah.
But, you know, or when I played with Aki Kumar and when I play with these folks, like, there's a chemistry. Everyone's watching and listening and reacting, and it's clicking, and that makes a connection that maybe on paper it doesn't make. There's sometimes you see these like super groups or super sessions on paper where all these guys are so great, but then they play together and nothing happens.
Right.
So, like, that's something real that people audiences understand and see. They might not know, like, okay, who did that song, what year did they do it, and they don't know a lot of facts about it, but chemistry they understand right away.
Right.
Right.
That's a great answer. You agree with that? You
I agree
want to
with
chime in
that.
there?
It's like music. It's not, in the end, it's not about skills and chops and how fast you play, and it's about connecting the notes with, you know, what you want to express and feel it and make it sound like you feel it.
That's why these classic
Yeah.
blues records, they had all that, and they had mountains of that. You know,
Right.
Elmore James had mountains of like drive and charisma and just the right thing at the right time, and there was like this sort of chemistry there. And you know, the great Muddy Waters records and Howlin' Wolf and
Right.
kind of Little Walter, and lots of times there's a sort of there's two worlds coming together to sort of create a chemical explosion kind of thing. Like when Little Walter took the swing thing and took the harp and made it electric, then you had these like, you had the raw material of like
fusion,
the country
yeah.
blues mixed with the swing thing and the electric harp. Okay, this was something new now, you know, or Jimi Hendrix was something new, or what have you. Muddy Waters was something new when it went electric, you know, when all this music went electric.
Right.
Even Elmer James, same thing. You know, you had a new spin on something old. You had a mix of the two worlds there, and so that's nice. So it's a challenge that now to like really make this old music your wellspring and make it, put the chemistry in there and make it pop again. So that's a tall order for anybody. That's kind of what I'm trying to do.
Well,
So we'll
you
see
do
how
it pretty
it
well. Now, you had mentioned passion in your music and everything. Is there at times when, do you put your passion into the music, or does the music put the passion in you?
Absolutely. It's, well,
Circular?
talk about yin and yang. I mean, that's definitely, it feeds on each other.
Feeds on each other.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But music, playing music, if it's good, it's always, you know.
Yeah, I was talking to
Uplifting.
I was talking to James Montgomery one time, and he did this. He did a quick little interview with me. I forget what I asked him, but he started talking. I think I complimented on something that he had just played. He played this riff or something, and a set, and I complimented on him. And I started asking him about it, and he started to think for a second, and he says, "I really don't remember it. I really don't remember it. That I was." he must have been, he was so into the music that he was performing almost like out of body, and he didn't remember what he was doing, that he would have to go back and listen to it. And he had said that many times that he had listened to his performances and said, wow, I didn't know I did that. Or wow,
That's a
that
good
was
thing.
that was amazing. I don't even remember that.
All right.
So he must have been so absorbed into the music. And do you find that as well when you're playing, that there are times where you get so absorbed into the music that it's almost, ethereal?
Yeah, once in a blue moon. Right?
Why
It gets
once in
to
a blue moon? Why not?
Well, I mean, it can always. I mean, a lot of times it can be great.
Okay.
And it feels good, and you kind of. But once in a while, it just gets to this little extra level, which is like. You just want to be. You're so in a moment, and you're just right there, and
Like
it
your
just-
band is clicking.
band is clicking,
audience is into
is
it.
clicking, and it just sounds great, and it's like, I want to stand here and play this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Like just this.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
Now, from a drumming standpoint, the drummers oftentimes, they sit in the background. They don't get a lot of recognition, but, I'm a huge drum fan. Is that,
We are the producers.
say it again?
We are the producers.
You are, but I mean, how's it feel being back there at times? And does it ever scratch on your ego a little bit that it's like, hey, these guys are up here, they get all the attention, and I'm kind of sitting in the back.
Maybe for a
and
millisecond.
a
but it's
millisecond,
really-
that kind of crosses your mind,
It's about being, the strength.
right?
The point for hopefully everybody to get around the bass player, so the pocket is there.
They give you a chance to show off a little bit, I'm sure.
I prefer not to.
Really,
No. My solo is in the ensemble.
really.
Oh yeah.
So he's a humble guy, right?
No, I saw Joe Morello
Okay.
before his stroke. Scary, very
Really?
scary. And I've seen those guys do that. And I play for a bar, maybe 4-8 beats, and I go, nope, boring.
What do you know
I'm
about,
done.
what's his name, Jamonte Dukes? He plays with Rick Estrin, his drummer. Did you see
Demar.
him? Demar?
Oh,
Oh yeah, that guy's amazing.
he's exceptional.
Oh, I got some video and some pictures of him. He must have been 10 feet off the ground when he was jumping around, and he gets up, started playing on the pipes. I mean, I can see that's not your style.
Oh, but he's got chops.
Yeah.
He's chops to burn.
Yeah. Now you'd mentioned a lot of the classic blues, the classic music. What's your opinion of the state of the music world, the blues world today, versus what it was maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and back in the day? What's your opinion of the current music today, the blues players today?
Well, it goes through ups and downs, but this music is too good to go away. It
Right.
keeps rearing its head again.
Right, but just the new people though.
I'm
new
encouraged by a
people
lot
who
of the
come
new
on the
people.
scene. What's your opinion of the new music? 'Cause
I'm-
I've heard pros and cons.
Well, I'm not a rock blues person. I'm just not.
Mm-hmm.
But with the kind of music that I like, I am encouraged by a lot of young players out there. There's this kid, Skylar Softly, down in Atlanta, and we play together when I go down there. And he's
Good.
excellent. He hasn't put out a record yet. This new recording that I did, I got a lot of young players on it. There's some folks from John Namath's band, and those kids are in their they're in their early mid-20s, and
Are they mixing some of the current stuff with the old stuff?
they're a bit on the soul side,
Soul?
and they're also real heavy blues heads, and they're just
Okay.
great. Jad Tariq, guitar player, John Hay, Danny Banks. I played
Danny
with-
Banks. Danny's
and
from
then-
around here.
Yeah, I
He
did
just
not
recently
know-
moved
yeah,
down there.
Great. And Hannah PK is pretty young. She did a new record on Viztone, and crazy about her. Ben Levin. We're going
You're going to be playing with Ben Levin.
Levin.
That's going to be a show and a half.
Yeah, he's great.
He
He's
is.
22.
He's a young kid.
Yeah, and he's an alum of the Pine Top Perkins Workshop,
Nice.
and now he's a teaching assistant there. So, there's people who do it. I mean, I wouldn't want this music to be like omnipresent. You kind of do have to seek it out. This is for the cool kids, to me, in my
Okay.
book. So
All right.
it's okay if not everyone is on board, and some people like some other things. Fine, I'm not a blues rock person. I'm going to skip that show.
Okay.
I've seen it. It's not my thing.
Cool. Okay. What do you think?
Fun. I was just enjoying
one.
your chat.
I could see the passion coming out in there, you know. Hit that little button and it
I'm
comes
not
out.
trying to hold back here. I'm trying to,
Let it rip, let it rip.
no,
You know, these camera lenses are unbreakable, you know, so let it rip, man. You know?
Well, yeah, I
stuff.
mean, we're talking about blues.
Yeah, the difference in the music. The music,
Yeah.
you know, some of the new stuff today versus some of the traditional stuff. What'd you think of this current state?
I think it's just what he said, you know, it's there, and I think it's always going to be there,
Yeah.
you know, in one form or another. And this is one thing I like with Johnny is he's putting himself into his music, and he's not. There's a lot of blues players that can tend to be a little want to sound exactly like. And like exactly like T-Bone Walker, or exactly like Muddy Waters or something, you know, and it gets old pretty fast because they're not.
Right,
I mean, how
right.
can we be?
Right.
So it's you got to put yourself in there, and since none of us were born in the 30s or 20s or,
Speak for yourself.
I mean, anyway, he keep pushing me off guard.
You're getting too serious there, you know?
Well, maybe I am.
That's good. Let it
start
rip.
the whole question all over.
Let it rip.
Where were we?
I get your gist.
Take
I get
two.
your gist. Your turn. Then we'll move on.
Well, I think, it's all relative. It's kind of a niche music like jazz is.
Yep.
There's people that really are devout to it. And there's always going to be that. There's always that small core group of people. And there are people that are coming up like Kenny B.D.I. Smith has put out some recordings where he's taken traditional stuff and put his bent onto it. So it's not going to die. It's always going to be there. Like say the Stones took Muddy Waters on
Correct,
tour
right.
and gave him this tremendous shot in the arm.
Yep.
Stevie Ray Vaughan went out and said, "Hey, Albert King."
Yep.
So it always comes back around. It's as you said, a cyclical thing.
Yeah. That was a great collaboration with him, with Stevie Ray and Albert. You know, that's a
It
great,
really was. That's
that was a
one of my
great
favorite-
collaboration
yeah.
out there.
Very
Yeah.
respectful
Very
too.
good.
You could see the love. It was real.
Yeah, and then,
the
you know,
chemistry was
and,
real.
Yeah, and the chit chat between the two of them, the camaraderie between the two of them, complimenting the notes and Muddy complimenting him. So that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Really good stuff.
So it's never going to go away
Good points.
because it always strikes a nerve with somebody, and they go, "I got to go check this out."
Yeah, cool.
It's like when you're playing music, you can be very accomplished, or you can be. You just started last week, but when you're playing from your heart and your soul, and it feels like that,
Right.
non-musicians, they get it. And it
Exactly.
starts to-
It's the effort. You feel
starts
the
to touch
effort. You
them.
can feel the effort, and you can feel the passion.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Now, for the sake of time, let's talk a little bit about some of the places that you're going to be playing. I know this is going to be probably airing in a few days after our taping, but you have a lot of shows coming up. And,
Yeah.
talk about some of the places where you're going to be playing. I know you have a list over
Do
there.
you mind if I refer to my
Not at
visual
all. Not at all.
aid? Okay.
So
I've been giving out these little piece of paper
You have.
things for years and years.
Yeah, I
This
asked a
little
cop
stuff,
down. I asked a
like-
cop down the street for directions.
Yeah.
He said, "Here, wait. Oh, this is Johnny's list.
It's on the
Wait a minute."
schedule, yeah. Okay, so Thursday the 22nd, Katie's Tavern in
Katie's
Chepachet.
and Chepachet.
That's
yeah.
a fun place.
It is a
fun to
cool
go
place.
back. And Saturday the 24th in
Library Park.
Saturday the 24th is Theodore's in Springfield, and the 25th
Oh.
is Stomping Ground in Putnam, Connecticut.
Another great
And-
venue.
Yeah, those are my last days around here. I'll be at the Library Park Blues Festival, Blues for Vets, on Saturday the 17th, and my show, and then also with Ben Levin, the young fellow
That's
I
going to
was
be a great
talking
show.
about.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any individual gigs coming up? Anything that you're going to be doing? And you do tour. Let me jump in on one other thing. You play with a band, obviously.
Yeah, I got my own band.
Yeah,
too,
give a little plug to your band. Talk a little bit about your band.
So my band consists of me playing guitar, slide guitar, and I have a drummer, a bass player, and also a percussionist. Plays hand percussion and also sings.
Yep.
So we both sing, and It's blues, but it's also a little swamp pop.
Swamp pop, okay.
And a little rootsy stuff.
John Fogerty kind of stuff?
No, not really.
Not really?
No,
So
no,
no swamp
more
music?
like
Tony Joe White?
no, more like Slim Harpo and that
Okay,
kind of
that kind of stuff, okay.
deal, maybe. And it probably has a little rock spin to it as well. So that's that. And right now, since the pandemic, we haven't really done very much.
What's the name of your band?
It's called Marie Martens and the Mess-Arounds.
Nice.
And
Yep.
we got one CD out,
Yep.
and we're coming back. Gonna book some more gigs here shortly.
Cool.
So for next year, so we'll be around.
Right. And I think I know the answer, but do you write your own music, or do you do a lot of covers, or write your own
Both.
music? A little
yeah,
both?
both. So
Cool.
the CD's got both original music and
Cool.
covers, and my own takes on covers.
Cool. What about you? Do you have anything going on, Steve?
Just work in the area, whoever happens to call me.
Right.
Johnny, call me.
You played on
He's
some.
quite in demand.
I was
all
going to
over
say,
Chicago.
you played on a lot of places. Rattle off some of your little kudos to yourself about what you played on and who you played with.
Well, do have to say the bar got set to its highest point doing the Lucerne Blues Festival with John.
Wow.
It was hard to go home after that.
Lucerne over in France, and Paris over in France, huh?
Switzerland.
Switzerland. Oh, it was a
I'm
beautiful
sorry.
thing.
Yeah. I eat cheese from there.
You got to come up to the Wisconsin behind the cheddar curtain.
I don't know why I think. Well, Lucerne sounds French to me, you know. So, well, good for you. Now, how can people get a hold of you? You know, how can people get a hold of you? You got your CDs out there. You've got, your shows. How can people reach you? Get a hold of you.
JohnnyBurgin.com is my site. Johnny Burgin Live on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. Actually, I like Twitter. I like the little blues scene on Twitter.
Sure, it's not the little bird that just kind of.
And I think it's Burgin Johnny on Instagram.
Right.
And
I see your stuff out
so
there.
please just hook up however you can. Bands in town I started using,
Nice.
and I'm all over the country. You know, I'm back. I'm ramped up to my former schedule, maybe potentially
Nice.
exceeding it.
I can't get a hold of you.
So,
You're all over the place.
Yeah, so definitely tell your friends. You know, word of mouth is the greatest advertising for this
Well,
kind of
all
music.
this information is going to go up on the screen. Your websites, all your information is going to get up there. So, how can people get a hold of you?
MarieMartens.com, Facebook, Marie's Blues. That's about it. I don't do Twitter.
Facebook and my cell phone number.
Facebook and your cell phone. Okay.
You want my
Now, when
card?
one other thing, I'll piggyback on something Johnny said earlier about your CD and your videos. You carry a fan around with you on your show because of your
No,
hair.
it's
The videos,
because- like,
everything.
come
Your
on.
hair, you've got that. You've got that rock look. You know.
It was great. We were up in in
Yeah.
Minnesota, and we were playing on this kind of outdoor porch,
Yeah,
and the wind
yeah.
was just right. It was quite glamorous.
And the hair was there, right?
It was there.
I guess it was, yeah.
It was there.
Well, you have to have in Midwest. You got to have fans because the fans, not
Right.
well, you
Well,
need other
hopefully
type
after
of
the
fans
show,
too.
we'll get it. We'll get on Facebook. We'll get it out there, and share it wherever you want to share it, and people will start to know you a little more around here, and maybe you'll get some gigs out of that.
That'd be great.
We've had a lot of people who've been on the show. We've been able to get some gigs out of it. So
I got to brag about Marie. People have just loved her slide playing and her vocals, and it's a really nice part of my show to feature her on guitar and vocals.
excellent,
It's just been the cat's pajamas.
nice little endorsement there.
Thank you, Johnny.
Is there anything that we haven't covered that you think we should have, or anything that you want to bring up? Anything
I
you want
touched
to
on
just
my last record, but I should
throw out
probably
there?
mention it.
Yeah, talk about your most recent record.
It actually came out during the pandemic, and it's called No Border Blues Japan, first American compilation of the underground Japanese blues scene.
That's a mouthful.
It's
Nice.
I like writing taglines.
Oh, that's cool.
I could write my own press releases. So,
Perfect.
so
Who's on
anyway,
there? You got any good guest
it's all
artists on
Japanese
there?
folks, except Steve did play on one song because
Did
we
he?
ended up needing one more song, and we were back in the States. So I had my Chris Mateos on bass and Steve, and we
Wow,
featured
Chris.
this guitarist Minoru Maruyama.
Okay.
It's really not about featuring me, although I played guitar in all of it,
Yep.
and I sang some of it, and I wrote some songs.
Yep.
It's about all these neat Japanese players over there who were so good, and that was just it is an absolutely unique recording.
Nice.
No one's done anything like it, And I'm really proud of the music there, and I can't wait to go back to Japan. And
Good for you.
other than that, I'll have a new CD. The music is done, and the CD will be coming out on Delmark Records in probably the winter or spring of 23. Everything just takes
coming
so
up.
much time
It
nowadays.
does.
For the lead time, with distributors and everything, it's just like takes longer and longer and longer and longer and longer.
Cool.
But we'll have vinyl out on that, and I do have vinyl since I saw you last, Johnny Burgin live,
Right.
featuring Charlie Musselwhite, Ray Gordon, and I'm going to bring Ray Gordon out here. That's another
I love Ray.
long-term project.
I love Ray.
Is getting Ray out.
She's a
'cause
hot ticket.
She is. and
She's cool people.
She has that chemistry going, and it's so nice to work with a featured vocalist.
I remember the
brings
first
out
time I
some of
met
the
her,
best.
she didn't know me from a hole in the wall, and within 2 minutes, we were like best friends.
Oh God, yeah, she's something else. So
She's so cool.
I'm gonna get Ray out here, and so she's on the live.
Well, bring her back with
recording.
you. Come back on here.
Yeah,
You know?
which is on the LP too.
Cool.
All right.
Well, folks, I want to, first of all, thank you very much. I mean,
Frank,
this
Thank
is
you, Frank.
I
This is
appreciate
a,
what you do.
This is a treat for me, and this is the first time that I've been in the studio, other than with little acoustic stuff. So, listening to you guys rock out and having you here and kind of getting me back up on the horse, I thank you all for that. And you're welcome back here anytime. So, folks at home, I want to thank you for tuning in today. I hope that you've enjoyed the show, and I want to thank everybody here at SMAC. Obviously, the people who push the buttons and run the cameras and make us look and sound pretty. That's Rob and Luke and Eva, who's running the captain's ship here today. And we're also blessed to have a couple of guest people in our audience. We are blessed with Beverly Candler Dancer. And we have Lynn Hudson. They are both here enjoying the show. So thank you both for coming on. So again, for Johnny, Marie, and Steve, Frank Walsh, as always, tune in and tune on.
Thank you, everybody at home. Now it's time to come out of the studio.